You see that pretty slick looking coffee table right there? I just built that, and it's got quite the story behind it. Almost burned down the shop making this. So if you are interested in that, want to hear the story about how I made it, watch the video. I'll show you how it happened. One of the biggest fears that any woodworker has is fire in the shop. And so that's why this project made me a little bit crazy. So I'm making this coffee table. I've got this piece of cedar left over from a project I did a few months ago. That was a mobile bar where I carved a river in it. I'll leave a link to that video down in the description. Check it out. It was a cool project. This is the rest of it. I've got it cut, ready for a river table. It's gonna be pretty cool, right? So I'm taking the MDF that I've got, and I'm just gonna wrap it in some packing tape, and that's gonna be just fine for a mold. You don't have to buy melamine or special molds. If you have MDF and some packing tape, as long as you can make that tape flat, just like that, nice and smooth, you're gonna be just fine when it comes to the mold. The key with any mold in epoxy is to make sure you have a release on there. And we'll get to that right here. So we've got our slabs pretty well flattened. Got a mold made here. And now what we need to do before we pour is we need to seal all the seams. So we're going to put caulk gun, caulk all those seams, make sure we clean it up nicely. That way there's no leakage and everything will be nice and smooth with this pour. After we do that, we're going to add some paste wax because you want to have some kind of release. If it adheres to this tape, you're going to have a disaster when it comes time to take it out of the mold. We want to avoid that. That's what we're going to use. This paste wax will keep the epoxy from sticking to the mold that we've made here. So caulk the seams first, and then make sure you go to the verticals as well, because it's a liquid. It'll find a hole if there is one. If you don't use caulk very often, put that bead on there, get a wet rag, get your finger wet, fill that seam nicely. Throw the excess on the rag. Now I'm not terribly worried about what the sides are going to look like as far as the caulk, because that's where the wood's going to go, and we're going to trim those edges a little bit anyways. But the ends here, we want to make sure that gets cleaned up. More important that it's been filled than what it looks like, because typically we cut this down at the end. That's really important that none of this epoxy leaks out. Alright, now we're going to open up the paste wax. We're going to add some of that all the way around here, because we want this thing to come off nice and easily. Now I don't want these to float, so we're going to end up getting some holes, and I'm going to get this kind of set up here, and I'm going to throw some caulk underneath it because I don't want the epoxy getting underneath of these pieces. We'll be flattening the top and the bottom, so there won't be a problem there. But I think what I'm going to do now is go ahead and throw a bead of caulk in there. Alright, we got this thing mixed up. Nice rich green color. And let's hope this goes well. So, I want it to go well. I'm going to pour about 1/2 inch to start, based on the type of epoxy I've got. So we should be able to get a nice little layer in here. We'll go ahead and fill some of this stuff in the green. And then do it, let's do it. All right, y'all. So a pour went terribly. Put the wrong numbers in the calculator. And when I say wrong numbers, basically I put 1/2 for a ½ inch instead of 0.5, and it counted as 1. So I poured a gallon of epoxy. I was supposed to pour ½ a gallon. And in case you didn't know, what happens is epoxy, if you put too much in there, it gets really hot. And so luckily I noticed it early enough that I was able to save it from burning the shop down, from completely cracking. But what I ended up with because of that is actually kind of a pretty cool, what did Ross say, a happy accident. The epoxy now has all these like odd shaped pockets because it cured too fast, but it didn't get like, it didn't crack. So now it looks like alligator skin. And as a born and raised Florida man and alligator hunter, I turned into an alligator table. So we're going to pour some clear on top of it. Kind of like the alligator look. And this time we're actually going to do a ½ inch. Now that we know, ½ a gallon is what we want to pour. So not what the original plan was, but you pivot, you make adjustments. And like I said, I think it's going to turn out pretty cool. So let's pour it. All right, so we're going to pour it. It's probably not going to fill this thing all the way up because I still have to pour about an inch. But we got this thing cleaned up. Got the compressed air and blew all that out. So we should be good to go. It was real nerve-wracking. I'm a little upset I didn't get any video of it. I wasn't really planning on it. I was just sitting around waiting for more bubbles to come up and be able to pop those before I left. But luckily, getting a whole bunch of fans on it, elevating it so that the heat didn't get trapped underneath, I think all those things helped dissipate it and keep it from actually catching fire. Because I'm telling you, it felt like it was a few hundred degrees just hovering my hand over the top of the epoxy. So luckily we made it, and it actually turned out pretty cool. I'm not 1000% sure that's why the epoxy is the way it is with that alligator look, but I'm pretty sure it had something to do with the fact that it cured so quickly. But look at it. I mean, that is a pretty neat look. Now we're going to get it out of the mold, and this is where that paste wax really comes into play. You get all the screws out. The sides, obviously, there's not going to be a whole bunch of, not going to be any epoxy there because we did all of our sealing earlier. We kept those pieces knocked or pressed down. So those come off easy. The ends is where we got to worry about it, and then the bottom. Let's see if it works. Okay, we're going to do something to play some whack-a-mole. Alright, now that that's finally done and the craziness of trying to save that project is over, we can actually get to the fun part, making it look really freaking cool. So, take it over to CNC, get it flat. If you don't have a CNC, make a router sled. I've got a video for that too. Put a link down there in the description. Check it out. Drum sander. I'm telling you, worth every single penny I paid for it because it saves hours and hours of time on every project. Do a little water pop, hit it with some more sanding, and now we're going to straighten those edges out like I said before. So don't stress if the ends catch a little bit of that MDF is still a little stuck to it or they didn't come out just right. Always overbuild by at least a couple inches so you can just straighten things out there at the end. A little 1/8 inch round over is a nice touch to just make it a little bit smoother around those corners. Just do it all the way around, top and bottom. Going to be a lot easier to handle, and it's just a nice touch. Once that's done, we can get it ready for some finish, and we'll really get moving on this thing. Now it gets to the fun part where you get to see everything pop. That right there is a water-based lacquer, and I love it. General Finishes, shout out to them for making a good product. This is the bottom of the table. Make sure you finish the bottom of your tables. That's going to help keep from things moving later on because that seals everything up. If you don't seal it, moisture will get in and you'll get movement. Movement is the worst thing that can happen, but it will happen if you don't seal it all up. Get it sealed. That way your furniture stays nice and pristine. Now I've got this cool little old pottery spinning table thing, and we've converted it into basically something to help us spray and be able to hit all sides of it much easier. Once you put the lacquer on there and it's dried, we can polish up that epoxy, put it on there. This is where that little pottery spinner is not very effective because the whole table wants to move. So, being the genius that I am, I took it off of the pottery spinner and got it all shined up. Once you get that epoxy all polished up real nice with a buffer like this, I'm telling you, it is so nice to see. It really makes it shine. That clear on top really pops and you can see that green coming up from underneath. It's a real good look and it makes it so much smoother. I'm telling you, the touch of the piece at the end just feels more professional. So don't skip the polishing stage when it comes to your epoxy tables. All right, welcome to the messy office because I've got so much going on right now. So started doing this before I hit the camera, but basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to add threaded inserts. So a little piece of tape on the drill bit keeping from drilling too deep. That is measured out to my threaded inserts. I pre-drilled some pilot holes where I want it, so all I got to do is put the tip of this bit right on those pilot holes, drill it in, and that way you hit it in the right spot every time. So keep going on this. So that's a wrap on this alligator themed epoxy table. It's been a fun build. It wasn't exactly an exact setup I was planning on it, but whenever you build something cool, sometimes you just got to roll with it and make the best of it, you know? So hope you liked this video. If you did, like, subscribe, share it, pass it around. Going to start getting into a little bit better rhythm now with all the builds we're doing. It's been crazy around here, but I can tell you things move in the right direction. So appreciate your support. Enjoy the video. Catch you next time.